Welcome to another Top 5 with Kris 05, guys. Today we're gonna look at what are the best performing decks out there after 1 week from the major nerfs. The meta definitely shifted a lot, but we are seeing some of the old decks actually bringing back some of their former glory. So if you still don't know what you want to be playing in the new meta, this video is definitely gonna help you out. If you're serious about Hearthstone, definitely consider subscribing to the channel, because I will keep on giving you weekly Top 5 meta reports showing you all of the best decks as well as all of the working archetypes for each individual class. Drop a like and a subscribe if you find this helpful, and also don't forget you can hire me for some Hearthstone coaching for lower than $20 per hour if you go for a free hour coaching session. Check out the links below. Now let's get into the decks. Starting off with the first nerf deck that has actually got back to pretty high win rates, Boat Rogue. Boat Rogue definitely took a huge hit, with Wild Pug Null reducing its attack down to 3, and we also have Mr. Smite up to 7 mana. But as you can see, the deck is still performing as fine as usual. Not much has changed in this list, it's still a perfect 29 cards, with the flex pick being Blademaster Akani. Akani nowadays is a pretty versatile card, and you can literally include it in absolutely any deck. If you use him in aggro decks, he basically protects your board early on. If you use it in a control deck, you basically stall the opponent. So all in all, having an Akani in this one feels pretty good, but you can switch it out for something else if you feel the need to. It also gives you that extra bit of ability to outplay your opponent, so it's a pretty cool card. But yeah, other than that, the 29 other cards are literally the same. You can also check out my detailed guide about this deck from 4 weeks ago, which still pretty much holds merit. Now let's check out what the matchups are, and as you can see, Paladins are not gonna be amazing for you, and also Control Warrior, but as you guys know, Control Warrior is a lot less popular nowadays. And everything else is very green, or 50-50 with the Beast Hunter, but all in all, you should have no problem climbing with this deck. Mulligan-wise, going first, you want your Blackwater Cutlass, still your Gnolls, you definitely don't want your Mr. Smite, what the hell are these stats? Krakatoa, I would still not consider keeping him going first, same with Scabs. Extortion you do keep. Akani could be a okay keep, but definitely try to curve into it decently. Shroud of Concealment I would be keeping. Edwin I wouldn't. Reconnaissance is not bad. And if you already have both in hand, you might even consider keeping the prep and even Gone Fishing. But do not keep prep or Gone Fishing without the boat. When going second, still your tradable cards are pretty good. Gnolls are pretty decent. Preparation you could even keep without having the boat just yet, but still try to have at least something else like maybe a Gnoll or the tradable card. Krakatoa becomes a lot more keepable, but you kinda need to be curving into it. But even if you're not, a turn 5 coin Krakatoa can really save your mid game. Akani could be an excellent keep as well, but I don't know, you still definitely want to be curving into it with some Gnolls at least. Shroud of Concealment, I would still be keeping, like, I'm really not sure why it's this low, like, you're still running only 2 neutral cards, so getting Gnolls nice and early is still pretty good. The boat is still fine, the Gun Fishing is still fine, and Reconnaissance as well. For other good rogue decks, we still have Thief Rogue doing fine with some jackpot shenanigans, and Mine Rogue is still pretty good as well. There is even some kind of a spell power type Garrote Rogue out there, but the win rate is not that amazing as the other ones. But still, you have plenty of different archetypes to choose from for Rogue right now. On the number 2 spot, we have Beast Hunter again. And there are so many versions of Beast Hunter right now, it's definitely hard to pinpoint which the best one is, but you have all sorts of options here, so you can pick the one that fits your game style the best. This particular version is still running the good Big Beast package, with Hydrolon, 2 Mountain Bears, and King Crush at the top. You have your Pet Collector in here, so you can fish out your Acheron Saber, and after that the Sunken Saber. You have Selective Breeders, so you can make even more Sunken Sabers, and that way you can cheat out your Big Beasts relatively early. With Revive Pet you can get back your Bears or your King Crush back. You have again Akani in here to stall, and for the early game you have the Naga package with Vicious Slither Spear and Murkwater Scribe, so you can get your Naga Sprite down nice and early. Devouring Swarm is a pretty cool inclusion in this one, because with it you get to do plenty of versatile trades. And that way you can also ignore taunts, so you can destroy some heavy priority targets, like a Gigafin for instance. You also have some Doggy Biscuits so you can buff some of your early game minions, and obviously the Harpoon Gun so you can fish out your good big beasts. Matchup wise, Face Hunter might be a little bit too quick for you because you don't have any healing. Same goes with Mine Rogue. Burn Shaman you can basically ignore, it's not really popular on the board right now. And also Murloc Warlock might be somewhat of a problem, but still, you're probably not gonna see too many of those either. Mulligan wise, here's what it looks like when going first. You want your cheap Nagas, your Harpoon Gun, your Saber, and Naga's Pride. If you already have some of those, you might even consider keeping something like Pet Collector or some buffs if you have cheap minions. If you're curving into it, you might even consider keeping Tavish. When on the coin, the situation is basically the same, but also Akani becomes somewhat keepable. And same goes for Pet Collector again, but still try to be curving into it. Now let's check out all of the other Beast Hunter decks out there. And like I told you, there are so many options. There are lists with canines, there are lists with the secret package, there are lists with even greedier late game package with Wing Commander. Quest Hunter is actually still working well, and you also have Face Hunter, which is not bad at all, and it can end games pretty quickly. Next up we have Fell Demon again, which is another deck that took quite a few nerfs, with Kyria going up to 7 mana and also Battleswarm Vanguard losing 1 health, making it a lot more susceptible to easy clears, but the deck is still holding its own with some minor changes. As you can see, Kyria is not in this deck anymore, and same goes for the School Teachers, which also took a hit. Battleswarm Vanguard, however, is still making the cut here, and we also have Metamorphin in here, so it can possibly protect it a bit. Casting a Fell spell for Metamorphin has to happen the same turn you play him, so generally, he should be dropping around turn 2 or 3 with something like Chaos Strike or Fell Barrage. But if you have something like 2 Metamorphins and a Fury for instance, you could do it as soon as turn 2 with the coin, so you can drop a couple of 3/4s nice and early. We also have Akani included in here, and like I said, you can literally include this bad boy in any deck and still feel good about it. Lady Steno is still doing a ton of damage, and is especially valuable if you combo it with Kris so you can reset his attacks. You still gotta maximize your damage out of your Dread Prison Glaive. Zillag is still doing a ton of damage, and you have your Jace at the end, loaded up with all of the Fell spells you managed to drew with your Fossil Fanatic, which is a pretty good steam generator. You also have Bone Glaive in here so you can get some extra bit of damage. And instead of Need for Greed, we have Spectral Sights, which are a little bit cheaper, but a little bit harder to actually pull off. And they're not a tradable card either, so it's kinda iffy. Matchup-wise, Holy Paladin is not gonna be too great for you, as well as Beast Hunter and Naga Priest. From the Shamans, you're not gonna be super happy about seeing them, but they're not too hard, and the rest is doing pretty fine. Mulligan-wise, going first, you want your cheap goods, Vicious Litter Spears, your Fossil Fanatic, your Weapon, Sigil is not bad, and Battleswarm Vanguard. If Spectral Sight's already outcasted, you could consider that to also be a keep. Kris can be a keep if you're curving into it. And Lady Steno, it's a little bit iffy. You basically can't tempo her out against some classes, but against others you might want to hold back with her so you can get some better value out of her later. When on the coin, again, your Vicious Litter Spear, Dread Prison Glaive, Battleswarm Vanguard, Kris, Fossil Fanatic, Sigil is still fine, Chaos Strike becomes a lot more keepable, especially with Metamorphin. Lady Steno with Predation could be great, and also going first you might consider keeping Predation if you have a 1-mana Naga, and Spectral Sight, again, if you have it outcasted you might consider it a keep. Multi-Strike also becomes a lot more keepable when going second, especially if you have the Dread Prison Glaive. And also Fell Barrage is not the worst thing in the world to keep if you already have some good minions, so you can keep it as a way to get back on the board if you're losing it. For other good Demon Hunter decks, we have several other different Fell Demon Hunters, and also Aggro Demon Hunters and Aggro Naga Demon Hunters. But yeah, you basically hover around these 3 archetypes if you want to be winning with Demon Hunter right now. On the number 4 spot, we still have Control Murloc Shaman, being quite the awkward deck to play against. The deck is pretty solid, and in the early game you have your Schooling Piranhas, which are a pretty good versatile tool for you to be removing stuff with in the early turns, but you can also just tempo it out, because it's a lot of stats. Bolner could be tempoed out as soon as turn 2, and following up with something like Clownfish can really be annoying. And you can swamp the board with a ton of Murlocs, especially if you have your Gorlock Ravager that way. You still have your board lock tools with your Snowfall Guardians, and your Brilliant Macaws, and you also have your Wildpaw Caverns. Command of Neptulon also is a pretty good versatile rush tool for you to remove stuff in the early turns. You also have Brand's Brawnbeard, so you can double up all of those battle cries. Frostbite can be very annoying to play against because in the early turns there are a lot of good free health minions you want to target with this. Sleetbreaker gives you some card draw and board control. And at the end, you have your Mutinous and your Brucon. Out of the popular matchups right now, Curse Warlock would be one of the worst ones for you, but everything else looks pretty decent. Mulligan-wise, the stats are not too populated, but this is what it generally looks like. Your Piranhas are gonna be a good keep, Brucon if you're with the coin, Sleetbreaker would be good, Clownfish as well, Wildpaw Caverns, Frostbite I would say is great, and also Bolner. If you're against a board-centric matchup, even keeping something like Snowfall Guardian might make enough sense. For other good Shaman decks right now, Murloc Shaman is actually doing very well, and it could be considered even the better deck from Diamond 5 to Legend, but in top Legend, Control Murloc Shaman is definitely the way to go. Burn Shaman still supposedly exists, but you're really not gonna see too many of those, and that's about it for the Shaman class. And on the number 5 spot, we have Holy Paladin again, which even though it got a little bit nerfed, is still doing very strong. Lightforce Kyriot is up to 8 mana right now, and in hindsight it looked crazy this being a 7-drop card, and also Mistress Might got bumped in the mana cost, and it still is doing a lot of damage. I did make a guide about this Holy Paladin not too long ago, so you can definitely check that one out if you want to see a detailed guide about it. And the deck looks pretty much the same, aside from running one less copy of Righteous Defense, so you have room for Vitality Surge, but yeah, the rest is basically the same thing. Matchup wise, Curse Warlock might be a problem, and also Big Spell Mage could high roll you a lot, but everything else looks pretty good. Mulligan wise, going first and second, Lightforce Kyriel is still pretty much an excellent keep, Alliance Bannerman is great, the 4-drop Kyriel is also not bad at all. Depending on the matchup, you might want to be keeping Wild Pyromancer and Equality, or City Tax, because in the early turns that's gonna be fair as well. Knight of the Anointment and Battle Vicar are not bad, Shimmering Sunfish as well, Samuro depending on the matchup could be good. And when going second, here's what it looks like. Again, Samuro becomes a lot better going second, but honestly, it looks pretty much the same thing. Not sure why Wild Pyromancer drops this low when going second, I would definitely consider keeping him even more when going second, honestly. With Paladin, you have Holy Paladin, but also Mech Paladin is still very strong. And same goes for Hand Buff Paladin, which is still doing mighty fine. But that's about it for the winning archetypes for Paladin. For the classes we didn't mention, starting off with Druid, we have Beast Druid trying to get back into the meta, but so far with not that great success. Ram Druid looks like it's still doing somewhat fine, being a bottom tier 2 deck I'd say, but the rest looks pretty iffy. For Mage, I almost did include Big Spell Mage, but the deck is so random, and the stats for it are actually not that amazingly amazing. Mech Mage is still doing mighty fine, and we have several Big Spell Mages that are also doing good, but we also have Ping Mage and Amulet Mage doing somewhat good as well. Naga Mage definitely took a huge hit, and the win rate is just not great anymore. For Priest, we have Naga Priest being the best performer right now. Quest Priest also does mighty fine. There's also a Shellfish Death Rattle Priest. Boar Priest is still doing pretty good in skilled hands. And there's also this Big Priest that relies on some pretty big Death Rattles that can catch you off guard thinking it's a Board Priest in the beginning, but then you slowly start realizing that is entirely not true. For Warlock, we have Curse Warlock doing super good right now, and you can definitely check out my guide about it, because this deck is actually crushing it from Diamond 5 to Legend. I literally went 16 wins, 0 losses from Diamond 5 to Legend on a coaching session with this one, and the games were just an absolute breeze. Murloc Warlock is also supposedly still doing good, and the other archetypes are just having some horrible win rate. And on the last spot again, we have Warrior, which started seeing play again after people realized that Control Warrior is still doing actually pretty good, especially in the new meta. A lot of cards got changed, and a lot of the nerfed cards are not included anymore, including the Dredge and Nelly, but still, Shield Shatter is an amazing removal tool, even only dealing 4 damage now, and the core cards for Warrior are still doing very strong. Quest Warrior is still doing somewhat okay, and I would advise you not to be running Nelly anymore, but it is what it is, and that's about it for the working Warrior archetypes. So that's gonna be it for this top 5, guys. Hope this helps you figure out what you want to be playing in the new nerfed meta. Don't forget you can also hire me for some Hearthstone coaching. Thanks for watching. I'm Kris05, and I'll see you in my next video or stream.